playing the blues, one thing that we talked about a little bit earlier was the basics of the blues, like maybe like a rock blues,
Right.
and versus maybe like a jazz
Yeah.
blues. We have Charlie Parker, who
Mm.
wrote really kind of cool progressions and,
Oh
and
yeah.
took that in a seriously detailed uh, direction with two fives and all this
Right.
motion. So it's nice to open it up and have that harmonic motion in the blues,
Mm.
and it's almost a little bit of a challenge to have the more limited sort of blues progression.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless you have maybe a different rhythmic thing
Yeah.
that like you were talking about.
Yeah. If we can swap the rhythmic, it, you always have motion, especially for bass players. We should be thinking in terms of motion. How are we getting from one place to the next? How is the tune moving forward, and how are we helping or hindering that? Um, so if like we just played, if it was just a straight blues, oh, I'm ready to take a nap already. Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
If, like I said, if we can swap that kind of motion for a rhythmic figure, and that becomes the propulsive
Okay.
element, then we can. Cool. I can do that all night.
So would that be something that would be prearranged, or would that be kind of on the spot? Oh, I'm just feeling this with a drummer, or could it happen either way?
Either way, it's like we talked about in another video. If you're looking at like a second line kind of thing, which is it's the hand jive. It's a New Orleans groove. Yeah, there it is. But sometimes, and you and I have worked together, and I like to do this. I'm going to change the tune completely. So yeah, it could be the drummer and I plotting against the rest of the band. It could just be something inspiring you hear from another player, where, instead of doing like a, and then we going, okay, the guitar player or the horn player just played something kind of cool that pushed you off in another direction, and then
Okay.
you could switch to a, maybe kind of a Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what's happening in the moment.
In the moment, and maybe the subdivision too lends
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, and if it's a long, slow, almost torch ballad kind of tempo, can't do that much. People yell at you when you.
Right. We try to get too creative.
Yeah, but so in which case, then something like. That's where you are.
That's
And
what's
you're
gonna
just
work.
leaving it there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it is completely situational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about cables.
Okay.
You make cables and you have a cable company.
I do. I have a company called Instrument Audio, and I make custom cables. It says I spent it's something I've always done, but I did a few years ago sit down and really, really listen to, analyze the construction and the sound of all these different cables. And there's a lot of junk out there. Wow, is there best out there?
Yeah.
But I have found a couple of companies that I love working with because their product is exceptional and it doesn't cost a fortune.
Okay, great. So do you have equipment where you've like tested like the waves
I
and
have
electronic
done,
equipment? and
yeah,
stuff like
I
that?
will go, take, maybe a 10-foot length or a 100-foot length or whatever, pick some standardized length, and I'll measure resistance, capacitance, inductance down the cable, all these things.
Okay.
They're all related to each other, or they're all intertwined, and they change behavior of the cable because the cable is, as it should, conduct signal purely and without editing. That ain't going to happen. So the cable becomes actually kind of a complex filter.
Okay.
And those three, resistance, capacitance, inductance, those three things and their relationship to each other change how that filter behaves.
Okay.
So yeah, so I do I do measure it and I
Okay.
check it. And I have my favorite test, which is the wire company I use now. Um, they're the first one to ever pass it, where I hook up cable and I hit it with a hammer.
Okay.
Just whack it as hard as I can repeatedly.
So is that like a stress test?
It's a stress test. If I can hear it or measure it,
Hmm.
it failed.
Okay, got it.
The other test is putting a cell phone on it. Just
Okay.
laying a cell phone on the cable.
Right.
I found a cable that is perfectly immune to that.
Nice.
There's a cup. There's only like 3 on the planet that I found that actually are capable of that.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's really nice because you get halfway through like a slow tune, like you're just like if we were just playing that.
Mhm.
It's a quiet room and everybody's intent, and all of a sudden you hear, the aliens
Yeah,
coming through your amp.
things, yeah.
It's not cool.
No,
It's
not
a
good.
good way to get not invited back.
Exactly, exactly.
So yes, I tend to obsess about this, but as I do everything else. But
Yeah, it's important. Everything from the instrument through the cable, speaker,
yeah,
it all has to be high quality.
it does, and we have to think, and this is something that I and people long before me have been arguing for. You have to think of it as a system. This instrument does not exist. It doesn't make noise by itself.
Hmm.
You can't share the lovely noises you're making without cables and an amp, preamp, speakers.
Yep,
So you have to think of it systemically,
that's right.
which is why some guys they'll take their bass and they'll plug into one amp and go, "Oh, that's terrible," and they plug into the next one. And this sounds great.
Hmm.
Okay, you found the match. This system that works.
Yeah, there's a whole chain there. So sometimes I'll practice acoustically on an arch top, and that is a really quite a different thing than plugging in
Oh
and
yeah,
playing through a speaker.
yeah.
It's something that we have to work to adjust to,
Hmm.
I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. And this is, and we've said it before on here. You have to practice with your equipment. You got to
Mhm.
practice your gear.
Yep,
You know.
that's right.
So, and learning your system and how it works. And because, yeah, like I say, it is everything from the tuning machines to the wood to the strings to the cables, pickups.
Yep.
If any one of those things is off, it's just not going to sound quite right.
Yeah, and if you don't like your sound when you're playing on stage, it's a struggle because you have to project because you're getting paid to do something.
Right.
To produce a sound, but then you don't like what you're hearing, but you have to do that. So it becomes a very uncomfortable thing.
Yeah, it becomes very self-limiting
Mm-hmm.
because you're fighting the sound, and as soon as that's taking your mind off where your creative energy should be going.
Right.
So yeah, that's so annoying.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. So your cables are part of that whole system that
Exactly.
keeps things sounding good
Yeah.
and limits interference.
Limits interference and is just puts out should, which is signal goes in one and comes out the other.
Yep.
As unadulterated as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing that we're gonna do here is check out a little bit of blues progressions.
Mm,
Okay. So we played a blues up front,
right.
and there are a lot of variations
Oh.
to the blues, right? And we're going to look at the Jazz Handbook by Jamie Aebersold. So Jamie Aebersold ran camps,
Yeah.
jazz education.
Wrote a million books.
Yeah, he's a sax player. He's really influential in the jazz education
Oh yeah.
space. The play-alongs,
The whole
That
music
all-
minus one thing.
yeah, that
Yeah.
came all before iReal Pro and Band in a Box. Really high quality recordings from really high quality musicians
yeah.
playing rhythm section, and you use these books
Hmm.
with the basic lead sheets, basically.
Yeah, there's lead
They were-
sheets, and yeah, you could get the cassettes, and
Yep. And they would they actually give you some of the suggested scales to use too. So So we're taking a look at the Jazz Handbook by Jamie Aebersold, and we're going to play through some of the progressions to give you an idea of what the different progressions may sound like. So we'll start with the most basic of them all, just kind of like a rock, almost like a rock.
Yeah.
So let's begin. We'll just play one chorus on it.
I try so hard not to put those passing tones in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a disease. I can't help it.
That's a fun thing as far as listening. Like we were talking about that earlier. We did another video for the members, and when you listen to someone and you're playing, you can kind of hear where they want to go and see what you can kind of tell all that, and that's part of the fun, I think, of playing. So yeah, there are some serious limitations on this. So some of the other progressions that we'll talk about today, they kind of guide your lines. They guide, the bass line, maybe the improvisational line.
There's kind of big red flashing signs that say you're going here now.
Yeah.
Which really, really nice towards the end of the night when you're tired.
Yeah. So the next one has a few different things going on, but before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about some of the chords and things. So if we had an F7, that I have this little tritone that I could play here, and then when I go to the 4 chord, I can go 1/2 step lower. This is not all what I did, but but you can kind of go to the F and then the B flat and then back to the F and then the C7, right? And then back to the F. So as guitarists or even maybe as pianists or chordal instrument, you do have this little thing, which if you're starting out with guitar and you're just getting into jazz or blues, this is a good place to start. Just kind of play these little cells here, and then you can add. So some things that I was doing, I was playing maybe this, which is F9, right, and then going to keep that same note on top,
sitting there, right?
Yeah. So that becomes the B flat 13,
right,
and then go back, and then you have the maybe C7. You can even just keep that same note.
Yeah.
But that's a little insight that you might find helpful if you're watching and just kind of starting out, and this is the progression, and everything else is kind of stemming from that direction. So we'll go over a lot more of those progressions and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about gear?
Sure.
Tuners. You were telling me about these tuners.
Tuners. There's great tuners and there's terrible tuners.
Okay.
And we have all fought with terrible tuners. It's the beginner instrument. One of the problems is the tuners are terrible. They won't hold it in tune, or they're very coarse and it's hard to. But as you move up, you start to get into stuff that's using Hipshot. Great company. Grover, great company. Schaller, another great company. Or my favorite, Graphtec.
Graphtec, okay.
They make for bass and guitar. And what they've done is each tuner is dedicated for that string.
Okay.
So they have different gear ratios. So the idea is that one rotation is 1/2 step on every string.
That's really cool.
For bass players, this is going to be exciting for you. That means you can actually tune your B and your E without sitting there tapping on it, trying to get it exactly right. You can actually come into it and it will stay in tune. This is cool. Costs about the same as everybody else's tuners.
That's awesome.
And they're nice and lightweight.
Yep. So sometimes when I play along with playing my Fender jazz bass, yeah, I'm like, you can kind of feel like it's not totally fluid, but you're just like,
yeah, it just wants to crack
just,
a little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah, it just wants to do that
a
thing.
little, it's just,
yeah, and you can kind of hear it.
And it shoots past, and then you got to come back under and
then
turn up
it
again. And
yeah,
yeah, that's really frustrating.
So that just doesn't happen on this.
No, this is, yeah, that's beautiful, smooth. They've got this really interesting gear shape that they use.
Okay.
So there's no gear lash, so it's not sloppy.
Yeah.
Like on the stock Fender tuner, it's kind of a mess because it is sloppy.
It is.
You can feel it catch either direction. There's a space where nothing's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Same with the hip shot.
Okay.
They're nice, they're tight, clean. Hip shot ultralights are kind of ubiquitous. Everybody uses them for a reason.
And they make
They do make
bridges and saddles and things too.
Yeah, they make a million things. Yeah, kind of both ends of the instrument. GraphTech, one of the tuners, they make the Tusk nut material.
Okay. The TUSQ.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Right. Which is fantastic.
I bought a few of those.
Yeah, they're a joy to work with, and they sound good.
Yeah.
You can cut them into shape quickly, and they stay there. They're very wear resistant. They do bridge saddles.
Okay.
And their thing is they do the Ghost system, which is a piezo pickup system for basses and guitars, where each saddle has an element built in, and then they've got this multi-channel preamp system that you can actually hook it up to your existing preamp if you're a bass player and you have the real estate in there.
Yeah.
Or you can just use it by itself.
Very cool.
Yeah, and send that off to if you're going to do multi-channel or if you're going to do the Roland GK.
Okay.
Type thing.
Nice.
Because the Ghost system will interface directly to the GK. Same cable.
Nice.
Plug it up and it goes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I find that the piezo is really helpful for live playing. It seems very practical.
Yeah.
And works effectively.
Yeah, it really works. And if you're just, for a triggering, you mean for like a synth thing, or
just in general, the sound of it, like for recording, I prefer to use something a little bit different.
Right.
Either record an instrument acoustically in the room, but I do find that the piezo it gives you attack.
Yeah, it puts a nice attack, gives a little sparkle on top. Maybe that a magnetic pickup just isn't going to give you. Yeah. And it opens.
Blended,
it opens up, it's like Godin and their Variax stuff. It's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if Godin is actually using the Ghost. They might be. Piezo got a bad rap for sounding thin, kind of weedy, and having no low end. And that's because people were trying to plug it into a guitar or a bass amp with no electronics there going, well, why doesn't this sound good?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, it's the whole signal chain. You can't just blame one portion of it.
Piezo pickups need a very high impedance.
Right.
Very high. Like some manufacturers say 4 meg, I find, or 1 meg. I like 4 meg or 10 meg.
Okay.
10 meg works great, especially on guitars.
Yeah.
So really high impedance, you really no losses.
Nice.
You get that clarity.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, if you're using piezo pickups and you hate them, change preamp.
Okay.
Just use a good one.
Yeah. And I will mention, I know I probably talk a lot about Quilter, but they are designed to handle really high impedance signals. So I find if I use my and this is another instrument I plan to bring in here and maybe mess around with, is I've got a little electric uh, ukulele,
Mhm.
which is all piezo.
Right.
How do you pronounce piezo? Because I'm always pronouncing it
I've heard
incorrectly,
I've
I'm
heard
sure.
it paizo. Um,
And there's almost like an American way.
which is paizo or
Paizo.
paisio. Paisio is
Paisio.
not wrong. That's incorrect. There's not that many syllables in that word.
Right.
You know, paizo is probably the closest.
Yeah.
I'll ask an engineer friend
Right.
and see if there's any consensus on that. But yeah, I actually like them. I mean, they're great on upright bass.
Mhm.
You know, I've got a full circle on my upright. I think you have the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they work great, but
Yeah.
you gotta have the right
The right thing to
to get
feed it
loaded. Yeah,
into.
let's say with the Quilter stuff, I'm looking down at Quilter, which you can't see. They make a lot of stuff for pedal steel players
Yeah.
and pedal steel pickups. You
Mhm.
know, really high impedance.
Okay. I didn't know
That's
that.
because they're so hot
Okay.
and there's such a high whine count.
Yeah.
And the impedance of the pickup is very high, which means you need much higher input impedance.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
that makes sense with the like steel air, and maybe that has a little bit to do with some of their engineering decisions.
Oh yeah, you know, Pat Quilter. I think he just likes steel players.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. And he loves Hawaiian music and
makes
all that.
perfect sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're gonna have that. So, but yeah, that's how pedal steels get that bright, chimey sound. It's this
Yeah.
very, very hot, high impedance pickup,
Uh-huh.
which is why like pedal steel volume controls are different, and the standard pedal steel amp is different. It's all to deal with that one insane pickup.
Yeah. That's wild. Cool. So how about we do another variation
Okay.
on the blues,
Mm-hmm.
just to talk about that in general. So again, we're using the Jazz Handbook,
Mhm.
Jamie Ebersole,
Yeah. Which one do you feel like doing?
number 5.
Number 5. Okay.
Here we go. Just one time through the progression.
Mhm.
Okay, so there we have just a tiny bit more motion,
Right.
not a whole ton, but at least we have some 2/5s.
Mhm.
We have a 2/5 there towards the we have the G minor 7
Mhm.
to the C7.
Yeah.
So if you're playing like a rock kind of thing, you might even play like B flat to C.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. 'Cause-
There's a relationship there, kind
yeah.
of, right?
Absolutely.
So you get, and this is something that might kind of interest folks with the, if you're moving from this and trying to get into the more jazz typical voicings,
Mhm.
take your B flat chord here, let go of that one, and replace your root note.
Just put a G under it.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
And that's one interesting thing I've talked to a few students about, and they kind of enjoy this, which is thinking about slash chords.
Mhm.
Even if it's a G minor 7,
Right.
it's kind of like a B flat
Right.
over a G.
Mhm.
And that is something that you have really a lot of control over. So if somebody came along and they're like, and you played a G, then
Yeah,
all of a sudden everything is G minor 7.
Yeah. Everything moves. There is a meme that goes around about every 6 months amongst bass players
Okay.
that says the chord nobody knows what the chord is until the bass player decides what it is.
Nice.
Because it's always
like
got a
it.
picture of Christian McBride grinning.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
But that's it.
That's exactly it.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like if you'll if you would play like an F to a F minor.
F to F minor.
Right, so you
just
got-
a real basic.
Yeah. Right?
Okay.
And
Oh, yeah.
so I could sit on the F.
yeah.
But one of my favorite things is playing the third.
Right. So it gives
So
a little motion to that.
Right.
So it's like an A flat 6. almost.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm thinking usually I would go like F, it's like, and then I'm going to go up, and then,
Okay.
so I got 1 flat 3 4 5.
Okay. Yeah.
This gives me a cool place to be,
Yeah.
and yeah, because if I'm at an A flat, and say we're playing the blues, where it's it's like a minor blues. So
Yeah.
I'm going to play the A flat under the F.
Mm-hmm.
So the 5 of A flat, if we're kind of thinking that way, because I do, is
Okay.
E flat, which is the 4 of the 4 chord that we're playing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I've got all this coolness, all these different places. And we talked about this before, and I tend to spin out about this. Because then, I've got, there's E flat, there's our 4 chord if we're in F. Now, the 3rd of E flat is G, which is the 5th of the 5th.
Okay.
So I've got,
Nice.
it's a whole different way to move through
Yeah.
the changes,
Yeah.
and I'm pushing a reharmonization without reharmonizing it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
sort of hinting different directions.
Yeah. I like that. And on guitar, can do something a little similar, which is just to create motion through inversions. Right. As far as, playing some chords and moving around.
Mm-hmm.
And without, like you said, without reharmonizing or really even changing the chord changes,
Yeah.
just changing what we're using at
Mhm.
any given moment.
Yeah, we're not adding substitutions. We're not throwing tritones at every single thing that we
Mhm.
come across.
Yeah.
We're just, it's the inversion. It's what are we putting? Growing up, I learned a lot of Bach.
Okay.
I grew up playing classical music. And one of my favorite things was this book about figured bass, which is, these were improvised bass parts that organists would play,
Yep.
which are nuts when you read through them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just wild. And you start thinking about these guys, 1600, 1700, 1500, amazing musicianship to come up with these things. They're fun to play on bass,
Yeah.
but it makes you start to think about, like, Bach was great on inversions.
Yeah.
He could just give you a chord and a choir, and everything is moving around and nothing changed.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, it is just playing with inversions and suggested motion or implied motion.
Right.
Nothing's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just this sort of gravity about music, or I don't know if gravity is the right word, but, melodic lines and, and on bass, you're really playing, in a sense, melodically.
Oh, yeah.
And you're creating lines and guitar and solos. There's just a certain gravity, and the harmony connects with that, and things want to move to these different directions.
Mhm.
So it's pretty cool and pretty fun to play around with.
Yeah. I'll do the inversion trick if I hear a soloist getting a little stuck.
Okay. Yeah. So they
I'll-
need a little
I'll just
nudge and a
I'll
little
just
inspiration.
change the bass note.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving the chord, just kind of giving them a little musical slap in the head. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
go here now.
Go over
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
I'm
nice.
tired of that. Go over here.
Yeah. Nice. So let's check out a little bit of another progression here. So this one strikes me just by kind of looking at it as more of a typical Charlie Parker kind of thing, like
Yeah, there's
Blues for Alice or something along those lines.
Yeah, if you've got this book at home, and why don't you? We are looking at number 10,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Which is a festival of 2 5s and a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. All right, so I'm gonna keep an eye on this so I don't.
I know.
It's funny how they're written out. I mean, it is cool, but it's, I guess when they decided to do this, they were just putting a lot of information in one.
Yeah,
spot.
it's put in a chart form. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. So you can kind of look through and say, oh, okay, on the 4th chord,
Yeah.
look at all these variations. The 5th chord, look at all the variations. Playing it is a whole different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll play through it just one time, and all right, nice. So a lot of emotion in there, and a lot of 2 5s, right?
A lot of 2 5s.
Got 2, 2 5, 2 5, 2 5, and that gets into kind of circle of fifths,
Oh, yeah.
big time, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're for bass players, so you got a bar of F, and then we got E, A, D, G, C, F.
Yep.
E, A, D, C.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Straight
basically
up.
the tuning of the instrument.
This makes life easy.
yeah,
If you forget where you're going, it's there.
it's that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And if you're playing a 7-string bass, then you got the high F. So that's
Right. Nice.
So you're there. But yeah, that is the cool thing about 2 5s is if you got repeated 2 5s like that,
Yeah.
the instrument built it in for you.
Exactly. Exactly. And we can look at kind of where it comes from. I mean, we get to that B flat. That's where we're really trying to get to,
Right.
right? So if you work backwards in the circle of fifths, you end up on the E.
Yeah.
So that's where it's all trying to get to, right? You're just trying to get down to that, that B flat
Yeah.
there. So sometimes it's helpful when analyzing to just look in reverse, to see why that cascading effect ends up, where it is. It's not random.
Oh,
It's not really so much the starting point; it's where it ends up.
Yeah, you're what's your target?
Yeah.
How do you get there? That makes me think of something that I used to do that a teacher had me do. Actually, 2 different teachers had me do. Play a piece of bass music and turn it upside down and play it again.
Okay.
Play it backwards
Play
and
it
upside down.
backwards. Oh, okay, that's cool.
And because it really makes you think about the tune.
Yeah.
And you make some horrific sounds that way.
Right.
Some stuff really does not sound good like that.
Right.
But it is a cool way to do it. Or just, read it down to the bottom and then go backwards.
Yeah. And you mentioned last time, which I thought was a great point, just to make noise, make sounds, make something that sounds bad, and figure it out.
Yeah. How do you know it's going to sound good if you don't know what sounds bad?
Yeah.
Which is a little simplistic, but it is the absolute truth.
Right. And I think, when I talk to students about learning an instrument, I always kind of encourage them to just break it. Just break it and then fix it.
Yeah.
Try to put it back together again. And,
Yeah.
because that's, it's kind of like that, working on a car or something, and you just kind of like tinkering. It's, and then that enjoyment, like Pat Martino talked a little bit about the instrument being almost like a toy for him, and not to make it sound insignificant. I don't think that was his point, but it's more like
No.
it's fun and it's
But his idea of a toy, I think, is a 12-sided Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You know, because it's just, yeah.
Yeah, he was up there.
Yeah.
He was up there intellectually and artistically.
Yeah. 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 Some of his chord changes, just
Yeah.
unbelievable.
But to try to kind of like sort it out, I think that's a lot of the fun. It's just,
Absolutely.
trying to figure out, why does this sound like this? Why does this want to go to this? And
Well,
Yeah.
like I said last week, I think I'm going to have a T-shirt made that says, "You're not going to break music.
right.
It's fine. It will get along.
Yeah.
You're not going to hurt anything."
Yeah. And that's what, practicing, just on your own in a room or whatever it is,
Yeah.
just have fun and
Just have
mess
fun.
with it.
Yeah. There's, as so many of us, I'm sure you did. I got lucky where I grew up. The very, very lucky kids, because musicianship was encouraged by all
Mm,
these wonderful music teachers.
okay.
So we all knew each other. We all played together. We would get together in somebody's garage. We were jazz nerds.
Yeah.
And play for 8 hours,
Mm-hmm.
trying to break it.
Yeah.
We play stuff and go, "Oh, that's cool, or don't ever make that sound again."
Yeah.
So if you can find like-minded people, roughly at your level, but you should always play with people slightly better than you,
Yeah. Yeah.
or a lot better than you.
That's what Pat Metheny has said on many occasions. Try to be the worst guy and
Mm-hmm.
or gal in whatever group.
Yeah, because if you're all at the same level, nothing's going to progress.
Right.
But if you can have a bunch of different levels playing together, yeah,
Yeah.
there's movement. Things get better. Everybody gets better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I know the first club date I ever did, I was
Mhm.
14, was with some very, very, very seasoned musicians.
Mhm.
I got my backside handed to me for
Okay.
4 hours. That was 44 years ago. And I
Uh-huh.
have never forgotten any of it,
Right.
because, wow, that was,
Yeah.
it's the most painful thing I have ever been through.
Yeah.
I was instantly a better player by the end of the gig, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Being thrown into some of those experiences, it's important, but painful.
You want to crawl down through the floor.
Yeah.
I wanted to run away and hide. Oh, awful,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's good.
Yeah. And I think everybody's got to go through that. Everybody kind of does, and it's kind of a difficult experience, but yeah. I mean, being on stage and feeling like you're kind of like sinking or like you're trying to keep it, it's a tough experience. But
Yeah.
it's a good teacher.
It is.
sense.
It is. Pain and suffering is a good teacher.
Yeah.
I wish we could avoid it. But for that, no, you really do need your butt kicked.
Right. Yeah.
It's I wish there was a better way, but at some point performing live, you're going to fail.
It's gonna happen. Yeah. Something's gonna happen. Yeah. You just
Yeah. So take it as the learning experience it
Yeah.
is.
yeah. Just kind of keep doing it. Keep at it.
Mhm.
We've got one more in store.
Yeah.
This one's a pretty interesting one. You picked this one out.
Yeah. This is just a whole mess of 2/5s.
Yeah.
And what I love is this is an F. We never play F.
Right.
There is no F chord involved.
right.
There is everything around it. This is like talking about the inversions and playing with stuff like that.
Mhm.
These changes are absolutely that.
Yeah.
Everything's inversions of everything else.
Yep.
The only thing we get to play is the 4 chord. Well, there is the 5 chord briefly, in 2 different forms, in a minor and a major 7.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everything else, just good luck.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're gonna play through this one, and talk a little bit about it.
Mhm. It wants to resolve to F. Sounds nice when you do that.
Uh-huh.
That's a cool set of changes.
Yeah, it's cool. It just kind of dances around it.
Mhm.
It's kind of neat. Yeah, so the 2/5 is very powerful,
Mhm.
very important to know. It keeps motion going.
Right.
We talked a little bit about Stella by Starlight
Mhm.
and how the 2/5 and just having that constant motion really it almost makes it easier
Yeah.
in a sense to create line because the progression is telling you, you know, where to go, you know, where it pulls you over here and pulls you over here. So the wealth of ideas I think just kind of keep flowing.
Yeah. It's because I tend to think rather graphically about things at times. Stuff like the first set of changes we played where it's like 4 bars on the 1
Mm-hmm.
and 2 bars on the 4. Wake me up when it's over. But it is trying to solo over that unless something rhythmically cool is happening.
Yeah.
It's like walking through the desert.
Yeah.
There is nothing but this vast horizon,
Yep.
and you're supposed to fill it up.
Yeah, yeah. And then you know, you could say, well, maybe just get real outside and then do it, but it's blues.
It's blues, and you got to
So
take it somewhere. You got to come from somewhere and take it from somewhere.
yeah, and it's
yeah,
kind of needs to be rooted in
yeah,
in that thing.
in that thing. And where we've gone through these more and more complex sets of changes, it's like going into like a forest that becomes more varied.
Mhm.
We have little things we can. Oh, look, we got a flower over here. We got a tree over here. A bear over there. Whatever it is, all of a sudden that desert starts to become populated,
Yeah.
and we have places to go.
Uh-huh.
We're not just counting sand grains.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, is there anything else that we covered we wanted to talk about today?
Oh, we've covered a lot today, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I have
yeah.
one comment. I almost forgot to get to it. About one comment we had about transposing lines to maybe different songs. Just want to make sure we got to that because I got that comment late last week
Mhm.
after we had already made our video.
Right.
So I think I'm not exactly sure on the question, but what I'm thinking is like phrases that you could apply to different songs.
Right.
Let's say you got a phrase and you just really like it,
Mm-hmm.
and play it in a different song, in a different tune, on a different progression.
Sure.
So I guess my take on that is, well, what's strong about the line? Is it the rhythm? Because if it's the rhythm, then you could adjust the notes to fit different progressions.
Yeah, you could move it around. Yeah, if it is, note based, if it's harmony based,
Mhm.
yeah, then you can move those harmonies
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So you kind of got two things happening at the same time
Mhm.
there. Yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. I'm not sure how I feel about plug and play licks
Yeah. Yeah.
because you hear guys do it, and you just want to go anything else. Play anything else right now. I've heard you do that all night.
Yeah. 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 I agree. But I think I think some people have different strengths. So
Of
I think
course.
some people who are like kind of linguistic,
Mhm.
and like kind of think more in terms of maybe language and certain phrasing. I think they may benefit personality wise from doing some
Yeah, I
things
mean-
but you'd have to have a lot of vocabulary.
You have to have a lot of vocabulary because otherwise you're going to get, and everybody does this. We're all guilty of it, having those 2 or 3 favorite licks
Yeah.
because they, they sit really easily.
Mhm.
It's like down here, that sits very easy. Kind of a lazy bass part, or
Mhm. Yeah.
it fits easily.
Yep.
Instead of going.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not such an easy thing. So
Yeah.
it's good to have the vocabulary, but you need a rather broad vocabulary.
Right. And I find I'll listen back to myself just for the exercise of it, and also quality control when I do videos and podcasts and stuff. But I'll find that I'll have certain licks. I'm like, oh, here it could even just be a little nugget, or it's like I do that. I do that line a lot.
Yeah.
And-
We all have them.
yeah. So you could even create variations to them.
I think that would be extraordinarily useful.
Right.
Because if you're just just, you could change the you could really start playing with there's 3 versions of roughly the same.
Yeah.
I'm hanging out in that same 4 fret area.
Yeah.
So for that viewer, thanks for the comment. It's a great idea.
Absolutely. We're looking for more comments.
Yes, please. So
Questions.
maybe work on here's your homework. Pick a couple of licks that you're comfortable with
Mhm.
and write out and play the variations.
Yeah.
Because that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
So you go maybe write out different fingerings, different locations on the neck,
Yeah.
and different keys.
Yep. Different keys.
So-
I think that's huge. Different keys, being able to play content in different keys, all 12 keys.
All 12 keys. Yeah, it's just so important, which is where a circle of fifths,
Yeah.
circle of fourths.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just tattooed on the inside of your eyelids or something. You have to know this. This should
Yeah.
be like breathing.
Yep.
It needs to be an automatic function.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get it, you kind of go, oh, look what they wrote. It's like, oh, that's cool. I know what they did there.
Yeah. Nice. So that's gonna be it for today. Thanks so much, John, for coming out.
Absolutely.
and
Always
doing-
fun to be here.
Yeah, and don't forget about John's custom cables,
Mhm.
instrumental audio,
Well, no, just instrument audio.
instrument audio. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm currently having an argument with my DNS server, but the website
Okay.
will be up at some point this week when we get that solved.
Yeah. So as soon as we get you get all that sorted out, we'll just put your link
Send
in
you the links
the
and-
description.
Yeah.
And then folks can go right to it.
Yeah, and the other thing, I do instrument wiring. I play with wires a lot.
Yeah.
Custom instrument wiring, and I love, sometimes it's like I've got a bunch of repairs in this week,
Okay.
and it's just fixing broken electronics.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, somebody will call me up and go, hey, can you? I love sentences that start that way
Yeah.
because it's like, 15 switches and, 3 preamps and 5 pickups. And yeah, sure, let's go.
Right.
So I do. Yeah, that's all there.
Yeah.
It's just part of the system.
Yeah. Got an SG with what are they? Some of them have 3 humbuckers in there.
3. I have done an SG that has 2 humbuckers and then 2 Strat pickups in the middle.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
It was a crime against nature, but that's what they wanted.
It's like you have an infinite things that you could dial
None
in
of it
there.
really sounded good, no matter what you did.
Right.
But, hey,
Yep.
customer's always right. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so you can hit me up with technical questions.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know, if you'd like to, here we could, if people want to ask us, a couple, the occasional technical question,
Absolutely.
you and I can dive in and, dealing with our instrument systems and
Yeah.
all the rest of it. It's important.
Yeah.
It's how we're heard.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, having reliable hookups and everything, it's a
Yeah,
must.
absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thanks again. I'll see you all in the next one.
See you next time.